Hey guys, GHAZZY TV here with another Path of Exile 1 video leading into 3.26. This is a build guide update, I guess, because I did have a Golem guide quite some time ago, but I have now updated my Golem build guide, and there will be a link in the description to the written guide for this over at PoE Vault by Icy Veins. Hope you guys enjoy it. In this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about the build itself and show you the PoE and a quick glance at the medium budget PoE and a couple comments regarding the build. I don't have any gameplay footage because I haven't played Golems in quite some time. So I don't have any recent updated footage for this. So bear with me. There will be a PoE video. I don't have any extra footage for you guys. Alright, let's crack into it. Low budget Golem build. You can actually level with it, but you are going to need a couple of items to get golems off the ground and actually start working. But for the most part, you would very likely level with something like an absolution approach. I do have a recently posted leveling guide for Necromancer that is using absolution. You can leave a link in the description down below to the written guide for that. I will also have a video covering that. And there's a PoE, just an easy transition of how to level through the campaign. This build, however, doesn't really need it because you'll level with the standard stuff, and then once you get access to something like clay shapers and even a primordial chain, which actually got buffed in the 3.26 patch notes, making the rolls a bit more favorable. You could use a primordial chain, but the problem is when I looked at the numbers, as primordial chain will completely remove all other minions, you need to have an extremely high, well-rolled primordial chain for it to be better than what we're running in this build. So it's a little bit of a bait to run this. So I wouldn't recommend it, but if you have this early on, since it's for level 34, it's really good to level with, I'll say that. So the low budget PoE, I try to aim the low budget to be very cheap, just a handful of divines with everything included. That means all the links and everything, and I believe we're covering that quite easily with this build. The build is obviously focusing on minion nodes. We are taking Iron Commander up here. We're going to run +8 resistances, Convocation cooldown recovery, increased AoE for better clear coverage with the splash, some mana reservation nodes, HP, minion nodes, accuracy, very, very important, and extra life, especially with this mastery node if you don't have a life mod on your chest. And we are adding some little bit of extra divine shield since we do have a bit of an energy shield buffer that can be sustained a little bit more effectively to help out with that. And then obviously endurance charges, which in the low budget we'll be using inexorable, which means that when you're hit, there's a 25% chance to get endurance charges. And we're going to run it with that. We do have the leech mastery, which by 3.26 will be nerfed by 5%, by the way, cutting that in half, which is coming from bone barrier. We are running a natural strength, which means our minions will be converting all of their damage to from physical to chaos and applying withered on hit. That's the plan, and it also means that we are interested in poison jewels, though I didn't go for 100% chance since this is not poison focused. We only have 92 in this PoE, and that is coming from a 75% darkness of throne with 2 poison jewels with fizz modifiers. Now you can have fizz damage or chaos, but I would assume that chaos poison jewels would actually be quite expensive. However, these are very easy to craft, both with alterations to hit the poison and then just augment regal, and whatever you get is fine to keep kind of approach. You can also use harvest crafting for these. They're very, very effective to get. The other jewels is just damage jewels with some extra stats, which is very, very extremely cheap. We'll probably go for like a chaos or 2. And same thing with this one for APS and a fist damage mod. So like everything is extremely cheap in the build. We are going to use Jinx Juju, and since we're dual wielding, we do want to push that block chance up. As you can see in the block chance down here, we are lacking a bit of spell block with this approach, but it is going to pack a punch either way. So we are going to oil Dark Arch. It's a very cheap node to oil, and it gives us more block when you're dual wielding. Generic boots, movement speed, life rest, same thing with the gloves, except for movement speed, I guess. Just a corrupted 6-link is fine that you can buy for 15-20C, depending on the time of the league. If you have no life modifiers on the chest, then you can use that mastery I showed you earlier. And the helmet will be just life and +2 minions, level of minion gems, and then the clay shapers. It's super generic. Skill-wise, we're running Carrying Golem of Scavenging, because this got a 25% more damage buff in the PoE we have right now, since PoE is not updated. Has a little modifier here to compensate that. But we are going to be running Summon Carrion Golem of Scavenging. We'll run 4 of those with minion damage, and we are going to be running Avoid Manipulation, Chance to Poison, and Multi-Strike for the single target. And then we're also adding Raise Zombies, so we have a 5-link setup going on in your body armor. If you have a 4-link, for example, then the first thing to go away is going to be Void Manipulation, and that's how you run it. So you're going to run both Golems and Zombies to actually pull this damage up, because Golems are, despite the buffs, not really that good to carry on its own, which is going to be the ongoing theme for this. However, let me go through the gems first. We are running Animate Guardian, Race Spectre, Minion, Life Feeding, Frenzy. The Animate Guardian, as you can see in the item section, you can actually drop down many. The important pieces is actually to pick up a pair of Intimidate gloves from the Eldritch Implicit and having Leercast, Dying Breath. Then the rest of the gear is kind of whatever. You can have any sort of body armor. Growth Cool's nice, but I'm guessing that's going to cost a bit. Ambush Charge Crusader Chainmail's fine. Any boots with extra Chaos Rest for him is great as well, just to keep him alive a little bit better. However, when it comes to the Spectres, I only have 2 Spectres. One is a Pale Seraphim from the Beyond Encounters, and Carnage Chieftain is from Act 7. This provides charges to your minions, and since we don't want to bloat or inflate the number on our configuration, I only say that our minions only have 1 charge, but when you're clearing maps, they actually will be getting 3 charges, which will significantly increase the damage output. But versus bosses, after the first 4 seconds of a fight, actually 4.5 seconds, they will only have 1 charge, so this is how I'm showing my POB, to not inflate, to show inaccurate numbers. That's the gems for that. We're running a Convocation, Despair, Frostlink, and we're running Life Tap support, so we don't have to think too much about our mana. Same thing with our mobility. We'll have a Leap Slam, Faster Attacks, Life Tap, and this is combined with Frostblinks for better mobility. And then we have an Arcanist Brand, yet again with Life Tap for Desecrate Flesh Offering. So you cast the Arcanist Brand, it will trigger these things by itself. You'll have your mobility skill, Convocation every now and then you'll just cast Despair Curse yourself. So essentially, you're just using Arcanist Brand every now and then, Curse every now and then, using mobility skills and Convocation. That's basically the entire list of skills. Aura-wise, we're running Determination, Purity of Elements for ailment immunity and extra resistances, as well as Precision, which you'll have to have a little lower level depending on the mana necessities. And the utility minion here is a config setup just to have the second Spectre shown in POB, so don't worry too much about this. That's the current setup for the low budget. I think that the damage is more than fine to play with. You can level with it. There's ways to go about leveling in general with golems, depending on the drops you have. Clay Shaper shouldn't be too expensive to get a hold of. And I was also quite satisfied with the medium budget, which I'm going to be showing you here in this video. And it looks like, right, it's a separate POB, which looks like this. The medium budget POB, we're using a little bit different gearing on the actual Animate Guardian, which can be shown in here. You can hover over it or click on it. You'll see the gear for here. You'll have the medium budget here, which is actually running a Matas, which is a scepter, allowing you to get your minions to have the main hand crit. We'll actually be running a recovery on life block shield with chance to block, so we're focusing our personal defenses here. Helmets, same approach, life plus 2 level of minions, resistances across the board. You can see how we're giga overcapped in rest. Like, you don't even need like chaos rest in your helmet and stuff like that, so because we're so overcapped with this build already. Chest piece with physical damage reduction is nice to have. Boots just with the life and resistances, but important movement speed modifier. You know, the whole drill, the standard approach. We are going to be using bone rings for this with attack speed for our minions, preferably with whatever attributes or resistances you might need. Darkness of Throne goes into the medium budget as well, and obviously we'll run a little bit better jewels. You can help with resistances or attributes if needed. However, it's a golem build, which means that we are going to, in the higher budget, be using Anima Stone, which is +1 to maximum number of summon golems if you have 3 or more primordial items. And for the primordial items, we're going to be using 2 eminence and a might for this, and no, sorry, the primordial golem jewels, 2 eminence and 1 might in this setup. And then we have a small armor cluster for enduring composure, which is how we're going to sustain our endurance charges as we're playing and have them quite effectively be sustained that way, together with a Rumi's Concoction with 74-70 block chance. Pretty good defensive layers for this. This build can tank quite a lot to do about 10 million DPS. Tree looks slightly different as we are using a large cluster, which in this build has only 2 modifiers. If you find something like increase attack and cast with your minions, it's fine. Like, there's quite a few different outcomes, like Primordial Bond would work and Renewal would work. There's so many different outcomes. So we went for this for extra damage output and then squeeze out an extra primordial jewel in here, as well as getting that small cluster. So that's the main purpose behind that cluster jewel in general. But the tree is very similar to the low budget. Some minor changes to it. We're no longer caring about Divine Shield, even though we have 1500 Energy Shield. But this is a way to play this build, and actually it looks like it's going to perform quite well. Skill-wise, we're going to add some Woke Gems here. There's only 2 in here. Utility setup, everything looks basically very much the same, except we are using Haste Aura instead of Determination, because the main changes here is that in the Spectre setup over here, we have a a perfect Guardian Turtle. If you want to check all the specters, you can click on Manage Specters. You'll see all 4 here. And this is why this PoB is separated, by the way, because Minions in PoB has a little bit of a problem when you're adding Forest Warrior, because this guy makes you have all your different layouts or setups have Onslaught, which is really annoying. So we're separating both PoBs to make that not affect the numbers in an incorrect, inflated way or bloated way. But we're using Guardian Turtle. This gives us physical damage mitigation as well as the Determination aura. And then we're running Alchemy's Creation for the damage buff, and Forest Warrior is for the Onslaught, and Pale Seraphim for increased damage output on the enemies. And these are listed one by one here. You can see this is perfect Alchemy's Creation, this is Forest Warrior, and this, where would the other one go? Pale Seraphim down here. So this is just a config setup. You don't have to think about that. That's just to make sure the numbers in PoB is actually displayed accurately. But yet again, we are using a 5-link running Race Zombies together with the summon Carrying Golem Scavenging. And we're using Woke Minion damage, Woke Void Manipulation, we're running Critical Strike damage, and then Multi-Strike. And the Multi-Strike gets swapped out for Melee Splash for single target fights, and it's a 5-link. So if I were to remove the zombies, look at 10.1 million DPS, and I drop the zombies and I added critical strikes instead, I'm doing 8.7. So that's kind of one of the big issues I have with Golem builds in general, is that I feel like they don't really hold their ground. Like, they can't carry themselves, and it's quite frustrating. And I had the same issue when I went into higher budget versions, and I think the Flame Golem setups works fine as well. There are some versions out there that is using conversion stats for defenses and actually using link skills with Flame Link to get them to do even more damage output. But in the end, the high budget version we chucked together, I wouldn't recommend this, but it is available in this video, in this PoB here. We're doing about 23 million DPS. I feel like for the currency invested, for low budget and medium budget, the build actually does really well. The problem with every Golem build I've seen is the metric that I like to value builds at, which I call efficiency per currency invested, is very bad on the higher end for Golem builds. Whether you do what I've done here with the Carrion Golems, or if you do it with Flame Golem with link skills, you don't really get that good numbers out of the build. Which means that even if the medium budget or the low budget works really well, which is, I'm happy to promote this. We'll be having a written guide linked in the description for this build. I'm sure people have a lot of fun with it. But I don't really recommend having this as the build you pour your heart into and having like super high budget currency invested into it. But if you're the kind of player that a casual player, maybe you want to just try to build out low budget, medium budget, you'll do all the content in the game. I'm not sure how well you'd perform in juiced up tier 17s, or if you do an uber fights, because I wouldn't even bring this build in there unless I go high budget. But you'll have to spend a bit more currency to make that functional for the build, no matter if you do my version or like a Flame Golem style to it. I'd rather recommend other builds at that point. But if you don't care about uber fights, Golems will work 3.26 and it's going to be okay, but you're going to have to mix in zombies because they don't hold their own weight. But this is my version of it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. It's lack of gameplay. I'm sorry, boys. But no, I was pretty happy with the low and medium budget. I think they're going to do great, honestly. But high budget, there are better options for the currency invested. I'll tell you that much. Anyways, kind of fun. Golem's getting buffed. Hit the like button, subscribe for more content, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Till then, stay safe. Keep rocking.